Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to decode something that frankly intimidates a lot of people: C2-level conditional sentences. We are taking this complex, sometimes totally overwhelming grammatical web and turning it into a really simple, almost mathematical formula. So, if you've ever struggled to express a hypothetical situation precisely, well, you're exactly where you need to be. And honestly, do not feel bad about it. Even native speakers constantly tangle their tenses when they try to do this on the fly. Let me ask you something. Do you know the precise difference between expressing a regret and stating a cold, hard fact in English? We all have those hypothetical dreams or past regrets, right? But expressing them perfectly without making a tense mistake, that is an absolute, true test of your fluency. You see, just a slight, tiny change in a verb form is the difference between stating a simple fact and expressing a deep, thoughtful reflection.
All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit the foundations of conditionals, navigate time references, decode hidden signal words, transform wishes and regrets, master mixed conditionals, and finally wrap up with a bulletproof conversion strategy. Let's jump right in.
First up, the foundations of conditional sentences. To turn an everyday fact into a really beautiful, complex conditional sentence, you kind of have to play detective. Let's look at a basic situation. I studied hard. I passed the exam. Now, how do we explain the relationship there? Well, we isolate the condition, the cause, and then its direct result. When we link them together with our formula, it becomes, if I study hard, I pass the exam. And this brings us to a massive variable, diagnosing whether a situation is actually real or if it's completely imaginary. Take a real physical possibility. If you heat water to 100 degrees Celsius, it boils. That's a zero conditional fact. Boom, done. But what about an unreal situation? Say your fact is, I am not rich, so I cannot buy a yacht. Because that condition is imaginary, it's contrary to reality, we have to explain it by shifting our grammar. If I were rich, I would buy a yacht.
Moving right along, let's talk about navigating time references.
When you visually map facts and possibilities on a timeline, everything just clicks into place. If you're dealing with a general present fact, you use the zero conditional. If it's a real future possibility, like if you work hard, you will succeed, you lock in that first conditional. Now, if it's a present unreal situation, you're going to need the second conditional. And finally, if it's a totally unreal past event, you are firmly in third conditional territory.
Okay, next up, decoding hidden signal words.
Take a super common excuse, right? Because I was tired, I made mistakes. Words like because, due to, or as a result of, these are basically giant flashing signal flares. They are literally screaming at you that a conditional relationship is hiding right there in plain sight. The cause and the effect are already there. They are just waiting to be transformed.
Watch how we elegantly flip a clunky fact into a super sophisticated C2-level statement. The raw fact is, due to heavy traffic, we arrived late. We recognize, okay, this is a past unreal situation, so we run it through the third conditional formula. If there hadn't been heavy traffic, we wouldn't have arrived late. Doing that instantly elevates your speaking and writing.
All right, let's bring it closer to home and look at transforming wishes and regrets.
We've all been there. I am not taller. Or, man, I didn't save money. Expressing a wish or a regret about these harsh facts requires shifting your perspective entirely to an unreal condition. So, for that present wish, we transform it by saying, if I were taller, I would play basketball professionally. Notice how a past regret naturally steps backward into the third conditional. The cold, hard fact is, he didn't prepare. But to transform this into a sophisticated insight, we look at the time reference, the past, and the situation, which is unreal. So we apply the third conditional. If he had prepared, he would have succeeded.
Now for the heavy hitter, mastering mixed conditionals.
So, what exactly happens when a choice you made 10 years ago radically alters your life today? This is literally where so many language learners just freeze up. But remember, don't panic. It is really just a matter of mixing and matching the foundational timeline blocks we've already mastered.
Let's say your past cause is, I didn't learn English when I was young, and your present result is, now I cannot speak fluently. Because a past failure is directly echoing into a present inability, we explain it by mixing a third conditional cause with a second conditional result. So we get,
If I had learned English when I was young, I would speak fluently now. Honestly, it is incredibly logical once you see the pattern. But what about the exact reverse? What if a permanent personality trait affected something in the past? The present cause? I am shy. The past result? Last year I didn't apply. We handle this by reversing the mix. We start with the second conditional for the present reality, and we end with the third conditional for the past result. If I were more confident, I would have applied last year. You're literally just plugging those timeline pieces into the formula.
All right, let's lock this all down with your final conversion strategy.
This is essentially your ultimate quick reference cheat sheet. It clearly maps out every single situation type, whether it's a general truth or a present cause affecting a past result, right alongside the exact conditional type and an example. From a simple zero conditional, like if water freezes, it expands, all the way to a complex mixed conditional, like if I had studied medicine, I would be a doctor now. This acts as your diagnostic tool to apply the exact right formula every time.
And putting that guide into action is incredibly straightforward if you just follow a few steps to eliminate the guesswork. First, clearly identify your cause and your result. Second, ask yourself, is this real or unreal? Third, what is the exact time reference? Next, grab your structure from the guide we just talked about. Then simply write out the cause as the if clause and the result as your main clause. Finally, double-check those verb forms. Seriously, this systematic approach is exactly how C2 learners assemble sentences with absolute precision.
So let me leave you with this thought. If you had mastered these formulas years ago, how much more confidently would you speak today? Kind of a brilliant mixed conditional itself, isn't it? A past unreal condition affecting a present hypothetical result. So stop guessing, start applying these formulas to your everyday communication, and just watch how quickly your English fluency transforms. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.